Okay, so you guys go ahead to drop that. Oh, we got our Charleston people here, so we'll go ahead and drop that in the chat. Let's see. All right, so we'll get started. I am Dominique Rice with PadSplit. Here at PadSplit, our model is do well, do good. So we believe in doing very well with our investments, maximizing your profits while doing good and solving affordable housing. Okay. And so right now we'll be starting with introductions. So Harris and Paul will introduce themselves as well as Susie. I'll go over a brief overview of Pad Split, very, very brief. And then Harris and Paul will take over just talking about their why, their co-living, breaking down just all the details, write down your questions. And Susie will be going over Rehab Wallet, just an overview of financial solutions and how they can help investors just like you finance your next co-living. And we have that on there twice. And then we have 20 minutes for Q&A and 5 minutes for a wrap up. So key takeaways. So without going any further, Harris and Paul, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Harris Jones. I am the Director of Operations at Rehab Wallet, and I got started in real estate in 2020, right in the middle of COVID, when we started Rehab Wallet. So we started a little over 5 years ago, and I came from a software background, computer science, computer engineering, and I shifted a complete 180 into real estate. So I started with Rehab Wallet lending money. Did my own fix and flip through that process. And then ultimately, I met this guy and we started doing real estate together. And ultimately, we chose the path of co-living. So I'll let Paul introduce himself as well.
Hey, I'm Paul. I originally grew up in California. I went to school at the University of California, Santa Barbara, UCSB. Also, for background in computer science, went to school for computer engineering, and then moved to Charleston about 10 years ago. And yeah, I got into real estate recently with a lot of motivation from Harris. She taught me about it to get to it. So we'll probably talk about that more in a bit.
Do you want us to tell a little bit about our story, how we got started?
Yeah, let's go ahead and hear like how you guys got started.
Okay, cool. So we met a guy, his name is Scott, and he is local to the Charleston, South Carolina market, which is where, you know, which is where we are. And he had purchased many of his homes with VA loans. He purchased them with VA loans, no money down, and then he would start renting out the bedrooms of those homes. And he ultimately came across co-living almost, it feels like, before co-living was even a thing. So
Right.
we met him through our local markets, and we liked what he was doing. We liked the model, and Paul and I are very community oriented. So that is ultimately why we chose the co-living model.
Yeah. And Harris, being in real estate for such a while, it feels like such a long time ago, but I was renting an apartment here in Charleston, kind of spending quite a bit. And then Harris was like, you gotta get out of that. Get out of renting, buy a house. Let's start doing this, house hacking. And she, like I said before, shaked my butt and decided to do it. So that's kind of our journey.
You want to, I know we skipped a piece of pad split, so you want to go back, Dominique? Sorry about that.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'd love for Susie to introduce herself as well. I've been working with Susie and she's phenomenal. We've been referring clients to Susie like crazy because her products are so amazing. So Susie, tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. So I live in Charlotte. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been a part of Rehab Wallet for a little bit over 2 years. I'm a loan originator, sales manager, support really from just finding funding solutions. We work with both experienced and brand new fix and flippers. So yeah, would love to share a little bit more at the tail end of our call about how we can help you guys find funding solutions. I come from a real retail background, 25 years in retail, did big box, Toys R Us, J.C. Penney, Vitamin Shop, to name a few. So I'm also fairly new to real estate, but I am a passive investor. I do have two buy and hold properties that I've had since 2021. So
Awesome. Awesome. So I'm going to go back a little bit and just share who I am. I am Dominique with PadSplit. So I am a host advisor. My job is to help individuals just like you all start your co-living journeys with PadSplit. The cool thing about PadSplit is it's kind of like getting a consultant at no cost when working with us. Whether you have a property and you're starting with something, or you need to fund a property, you need to find a property, my job is to support you through the entire process. So I always share this, and this number is constantly growing, but currently PadSplit has over 26,000 units. When I started in February, we had close to 18,000 units. So to see this growth over this year is crazy. We hope to be close to 30,000 units by the end of the year. So my team and I are really pushing hard for that. Right now, you can see on this map some core markets for PadSplit. So these are our core markets where you have an account executive like myself. We support you in these markets. We just added Portland, Oregon. Super excited about that. And we will be adding Nashville, Tennessee, in November. So save the date for November 20th. We're having a huge launch seminar party. I'll be sharing the link to that when we send out this invite, but it's going to be a full day event. Lots of speakers. Our founder, Atticus, is going to be there to just really launch Nashville with our Nashville rep, Corey. So very excited about that. And I'll be there too. So super excited to see PadSplit growing so fast. So the reason we're growing so quickly is that PadSplit is the nation's largest co-living platform. So we are a marketplace. We allow you to post your properties on PadSplit and to still be able to have complete control. We help you create higher cash flow. We help you find steady tenants. So if you're not on PadSplit yet, you may call them tenants. Here at PadSplit, we say members. So we just wanted to keep the terminology pretty clear so you guys know what we're talking about. The individuals who are renting rooms on PadSplit are working individuals, folks who go to work every day, who deserve the opportunity to live by where they work and where they play. So our average PadSplit earner earns between $20,000 and $60,000 per year. They make a 12-week commitment, and the average stay is 6 to 9 months. So it's not that weekly or monthly turn. We have a very strong average stay. And PadSplit's the perfect solution to be able to grow and scale. So we do the marketing, the tenant screening, the member support, the rent collection, all handled for you so you can focus on growing and scaling your portfolio. Our proven model is successful with 26,000 plus units, nationwide trust with PadSplit to maximize your profits. I always like to share, and Susie will be able to touch on this as well. Many of our investors do fix and flip loans, so that way they can buy properties with value add, really develop those properties into nice co-living facilities, and to be able to add value as well as add bedrooms, which increases their income. We at PadSplit like to say every bedroom is an asset because each bedroom is an opportunity to create revenue. So now I'd like to pass it over to Harris and Paul. I do have a couple of questions for you guys that maybe we can kind of start off your journey and just, because you guys are, Harris, you work in finance, and co-living. Tell us a little bit about like when you first decided to do a property, how did you fund this property? What did you do first?
That is a great question. And technically, Paul is now in finance too. He just passed his MLO exam, so he is almost licensed. He's waiting on his license to come in, which is super cool. So we both kind of have a background in finance. We got started using owner-occupied loans.
Okay.
So we were going to live in the home. We knew that from the beginning. We wanted to dip our toes in. We're big proponents of start from your house and house hack and then grow from there. Because if you do that, you're able to really understand what your members need, what your tenants need, depending on how you structure it. And we've really created some great friendships through that process of just living in the home with other people. So for those of you who are familiar with owner occupied, you're limited to certain types of loans. So we tried for Paul's house. We have 18 rooms, by the way. We have three houses. So Paul has a house, I have a house, and then we have a house together with two partners. Paul's house, we used a conventional renovation loan. So you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, this is probably one of the best ways to get into anything real estate. A conventional renovation loan is traditionally you get a mortgage to buy your house, whether it's, $500,000 or 300, whatever it is. But then also, if you want to do any sort of renovation, whether you want to add a new porch or add a barbecue area, or in our case, adding bedrooms and bathrooms, maybe a new fence, converting from an old water heater tank to a tankless, a new laundry room, all these sorts of things, then the bank will also give you that money as well. And it's an amazing product because when you buy the house and then do the renovation and then move in, there's no refinance. It's one single 30-year fixed loan.
Wow.
So in my case, the house was about $320,000, and then the renovation was about 60.
Okay.
So all provided by the type of loan that I got, minus a down payment, of course, to do that renovation, which is great because a lot of people they might be like, well, I don't have money to buy a house, I don't have money to renovate it out of pocket, but now
Great.
you can, as low as 5% down.
Yeah.
So we did that. Took about 3 months to renovate, adding bedrooms, bathrooms, expanding the driveway area, creating a new laundry room, stuff like that. And then we moved in.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then what?
Paul, is that a 203 loan that you used?
It is very similar.
Okay.
The FHA 203K is the FHA's Federal Housing Administration. It's a
Okay.
government program. The FHA 203K is the government version of a renovation loan.
Okay.
Conventional renovation loan, Fannie Mae Home Style, is the conventional version. So they're pretty much very similar in how they operate, except for conventional, 5% down.
Okay.
For the FHA version, 3.5% down, which is insane. It's almost nothing. 3.5% down. And then it has a few other stipulations, like the government one, credit requirements are lower. Um, has a few other benefits, like for the conventional one, if you want to have a house that's $400,000 and the renovation is 100, $500,000 total, then it must appraise for $500,000. For
Okay.
the FHA version, because the government is a little more lenient, let's say you're all in your renovation and and the purchase is $550,000. For whatever reason, if it only appraises for 500, the government will still give you 550. So it goes up to 110%. It's insane. Yeah,
Wouldn't recommend that because then you'd be underwater from the beginning.
yeah.
But
Right.
it is an option if you're
Yeah,
interested in that.
but the FHA 203K is probably the most powerful loan product, like especially for people who are going to live there, owner occupied loan. If you don't have much money, if maybe you don't have as good credit, then the government will help you out in that way.
Yeah. And you can only have one FHA loan at a time.
Right.
So we actually use the conventional renovation loan for the first house. The second house I already owned and I had a ton of equity since 2020. I bought it in 2020. So what I did is I took out a HELOC and then I used that money to renovate into co-living. And then the third house, we actually did use an FHA 203K, Dominique. So we partnered up with somebody who didn't have a primary residence and then they became the owner occupant of that property.
And Alex's question, 110% of ARV. So you and a government HUD consultant will estimate the value of the house after all your renovations, and they will actually give you 110% of the value. And that's in case that the appraisal value doesn't come in where you need it. It's not that they will give you 110% no matter what. Just very yeah, big stipulation there. But yeah, and then conventional, you can have as many as you want.
Okay, perfect. You guys, this already is a total gem. So for so many people, we often hear like, I can't do pad split. I don't have any money, but this is a great way. And yes, you guys, you can put owner occupied properties on pad split. So this is what we're here for. So it is a tool. So you can live in the home and list your property. So for folks who are listening now, take this as an inspirational moment to like really lock in and think about some non-traditional ways to get started. You don't have to wait until you save 20% down. This is a great stepping stone to really grow and scale. William has a question. What about evaluating a duplex that I'm purchasing for $469,000? It's a 6 6, it's a 642 and is now a 1260 and has monthly gross rent. How is it appraised now?
If you have a 12 bedroom, that really depends on how you're doing the loan. I assume this would be for an FHA 203K.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but if you're doing a conventional renovation loan or FHA 203K, it would be appraised. Both of them can go up to quadplex.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So you can get a
Yeah.
quadplex with that loan.
Yeah, it's they're all considered up a residential property. Also kind of crazy for an FHA 203K. This is kind of like a secret hack. We haven't done this yet, but you could purchase a commercial property with an FHA 203K, and as long as you're going to convert it into residential, they will allow you to do that. So you can buy a big old warehouse or something like that if you really wanted to, and as long as it's going to be for 4 units or less of residential, you can do that.
I think I'll add a little bit to that too, is to go back to William's question. There are different loan products and they're valued differently. So for example, if you do an owner occupied loan, they're typically going to base the value on comps, on comparables in the market. So if you're doing a single family duplex, quadplex, triplex, I went in those backwards order, but you know what I meant. Those those are going to be evaluated based on the comparables in the market because they're still residential. If you go into more of a DSCR type loan, they're going to be basing the loan on the income that that property projects to make or is already making.
Okay.
But you have to be a little bit careful with that because sometimes DSCR loans don't really like single room occupancy. So, and we'll dive into that a little bit more later in this presentation because we're going to be talking about hard money. And in order to get hard money, you have to be able to refinance. And so the refinance is where those DSCR type loans come into play.
Perfect. So Julie has a question. I thought if you put 20% down, that PMI isn't required.
For a conventional loan, that is true. If you put 20% down, I believe there's no PMI. With FHA, I believe the rule is if it's less than 11% down, PMI is for the life of the loan forever, no matter how much you pay off. And I think if you put 11% down, it lasts 10 years and then goes away, depending on if you have 80% or less. Or
Awesome.
of course, you refinance too.
Perfect. So Carrie has a question, and I'll take this question, Carrie. I have been approached to sell my pad split. How are they priced considered to the home value, all furniture setup, and income from members? So, and you guys tell me your approach too. So the first thing I would say is look at your home value, and start from there. And then the next thing I would do is start at your rent roll. Are you selling it as an asset or are you selling it as a business? And then kind of like see, what that would look like. I would also evaluate the offer. So if someone approaches you with an offer, really, really take a look at that offer and see where that is in terms of the home value of the property. What would you recommend for someone that's being approached to sell their co-living property?
The way that I would personally look at it is I would do both methods and then try to merge the two. So I would look at it from a comparable perspective and just say, what is this house worth with all the furniture, fixtures, all the stuff inside of it, compared to the market? And then I would look at what does this property make and kind of treat it like a commercial property,
Right.
not residential, to see what you could sell it for based on not the comparables, but instead the income. So I would then merge those two and see what's the best price for you, because a lot of investors in co-living and pad split, they are not just looking at what the house is worth. They're looking at what the house can bring in. And so you can easily merge those two if you're selling to an investor.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. So my next question for you both is, so, you started this journey, you started doing your co-living. You both started, in a non-traditional way. Now going forward, when you're looking to scale for your next properties, what type of loan products would you consider and how would you do it differently now that you've already utilized this tool?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say that the both the conventional renovation and the FHA 203K are very difficult to close.
Really?
Yes. So when you're buying the traditional route of just buying a house with a mortgage, you have to do your inspection period of doing a home inspection, doing your due diligence, getting your finances in order, all that kind of stuff. With a renovation loan, now you actually have to do an extra step, which is getting a contractor.
Okay.
You have to find hopefully more than one contractor, maybe five or 10, you talk to and say, hey, this is what we want to do. Do you want to do this? A
Right.
lot of contractors are going to be like, you know what? That's a lot of paperwork. I don't want to do that. But if you do find some contractors, then you have to walk through the property with them and say, this is what I want to do. Tell me the cost. Give me a cost estimate. And then they'll submit a cost estimate. Hopefully, hopefully it's not too egregious or something. Then you have to submit that to your lender, and then they have to approve it, check it over, make sure everything's okay, make sure it's in the budget and reasonable, and then you will close. And if for whatever reason the seller is totally on board and the lender is totally on board, but you didn't get a contractor to agree to it, your loan won't close. You just lost your earnest money.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
if you, for whatever reason, maybe you did get a cost estimate, but it was more than the lender is willing to pay, well, you don't close and you lose your earnest money. So, big tip is make sure that if you're going to do this, make sure you talk to contractors before you're even under contract.
Okay.
And then also, you must do this. This is a huge learning lesson for us. Your time to close, make sure it is 45 to 60 days. If you do 30-day close, you will fail. You need a lot of time. So just
I think to that point, a lot of people say 45 days, but you'll end up extending, you'll need more time, and then you'll end up with a 60-day close. And a lot of sellers aren't willing to wait that long, which
Okay.
is why it's very difficult to close, because even if you're able to get it under contract for 45 or 60 days, it takes a long time, it takes a lot
yeah,
of effort, and then you have to get everybody on board. With an FHA loan, you have a HUD consultant as well. So your HUD consultant, your contractor, you and your lender all have to be on the same page.
yeah, and that all must happen before funding. So this is probably one of the trickiest parts, probably one of the downsides of doing this is that it is very difficult to close. So, if you're going to do this, make sure you know all these things beforehand, have some good contractors, or consider using other methods that have faster close times.
Yeah.
Wink,
But
wink, wink.
to go back to your question, Dominique, there are only so many owner occupied loans you can have, right?
Right.
Once you move into a house, you have an owner occupied loan, you're supposed to be there for 12 months after you close. And so even if the renovation takes a little while, you're supposed to be there for 12 months. So that's why we partnered with somebody on the last one that we did, because we hadn't yet been in the house for 12 months that we're currently in. So we partnered with somebody who was willing to become the owner occupant on that property. So to that point, we are now looking at other options for scaling, because as you grow, if unless you want to buy one house every single year and owner occupy it and then move out and replace yourself, you're going to need something that's a little bit more scalable. You're going to need something that has a little bit more liability protection, which is where we would get into the hard money and the DSCR loans. So what we would eventually do, and this is what we're looking at now, is going to buy a house that's in distress, that needs some repairs. We would probably use a hard money loan to do the repairs. And then once that hard money loan is up on its maturity, or by the time we finish the renovation, whatever happens first, we would then refinance into a more long-term loan using DSCR,
Okay.
and base it on the projected income.
Perfect, perfect. Now, one thing that I'd like to share with folks is that PadSplit has a list of vendors if you are operating in a core market. So, where those dots were on the map, we have contractors who specifically understand co-living, who are approved by PadSplit. They go through a pretty decent screening process. So you have access to those tools if you're considering co-living. So reach out to me if you're not already doing PadSplit, and I can share with you how to access those tools and find folks in your area. A question that we have is when we own a house, but I'm not sure whether to rent it, do Airbnb or PadSplit. What do you recommend?
Uh,
Okay.
Being that this is a pad split call, I think the answer.
So I'm
Uh,
going to give you I'm going to give you my kind of read on things. You got to run the numbers, okay? And you have to decide how hands-on you want to be. So you can totally rent a long-term rental. That's a great option. And the pros to that is it's simple. You rent it unfurnished. You don't have to worry about anything. You sign the lease. Here's the issue folks are having. They cannot find individuals to qualify. So I have colleagues who have pretty, regular homes, 2,200 a month, $2,400 a month, nothing luxurious or, terribly expensive. They cannot find a qualified person to rent that house. Either they don't have the background check, they can't qualify with income, they don't complete the process. So it's taking folks longer to rent long-term properties. The other thing that we're seeing with short-term rentals, again, Airbnb is great. It's a great solution for a lot of folks, and a lot of people have been very successful. You're seeing a lot of turn. You have to have great cleaners. You got to be prepared. Nightly rate is going to be phenomenal, but you're probably going to be closer to that 20 to 40, maybe 50% occupancy if you're lucky. And then with pad split, I call it kind of like for me as an investor, co-living is a way to kind of, really be able to maximize your revenue and not do as much hospitality. So, and you have multiple streams of income. So if you have 4 or 5 bedrooms and you have 4 rooms occupied at 5 bedrooms, you're cash flowing, even at 3 bedrooms, while you're waiting for your next person to come. So it really depends on your risk tolerance. Happy to chat with you and kind of run the numbers. It's all about numbers for me to determine if it's a good fit for you financially. So just something to kind of think about. But if you're interested in running numbers for PadSplit, I'm here to help you.
I think
Um,
Paul's got some extra stuff there, and
well,
I could probably add something too.
I wanted to mention that it depends on your area. In Charleston, South Carolina, there are a lot of Airbnbs. So competition is like it's
mm,
rocketing through the roof. So it depends on where you are, Placido. It depends on where you are, but if there's a lot of competition for Airbnb in your area, then beware of that. If
right.
there's not a lot of competition, then maybe it's a good option. I would say co-living is still fairly new, so take that into account as well. Competition is a huge thing.
Yeah. I would say to add on to that, Airbnb is all about the pizzazz. It's all about the features. Does somebody want to go there and sit in your hot tub and relax and watch this beautiful view, right? So if your property doesn't have those really nice features, it's probably not going to do very well on Airbnb, especially if it's not a primary market like Charleston, South Carolina, or more of a vacation touristy town. It just doesn't get as much traction on Airbnb if it doesn't have those features. From a pad split versus renting it perspective, or even if you're not in a primary market for pad split, and like we aren't, we're in Charleston and it's not a core market for pad split, and that's okay. I would also look at, can a property in your market rent long term and actually bring you income or break even? Because right now, not a lot of people are able to even break even on long term rents. So you have to, again, like Dominique said, run those numbers And then when you're comparing pad split versus non-pad split, for example, if you try to go invest in Atlanta doing co-living and you are not on pad split, good luck, right? Because pad split has done their work. They are, fighting those legal battles. They are on your side when it comes to that, and they are the Goliath in the market for Atlanta. So you're not going to be able to list your property outside of pad split in a market like that. You probably could, but you won't get that much traction, right? So pad split is the way to go in those very, very core markets.
And from the inside perspective of PadSplit, all of our core markets are leaning towards that way. So our partnerships with Zillow, our partnerships with Roomies, so we're really kind of becoming like the ecosystem for co-living. Like co-living is going to eventually be called pad splitting, and that's how quickly we're growing and scaling. And something else to share with you guys, someone asked, they're in Florence, South Carolina. The best thing about PadSplit is even if you're not in a core market, you can still post on PadSplit. So just because it's not in one of those areas, we don't have as much support. So we don't have the boots on the ground. We don't have the contractors. We don't have the vendors. But you can still list your property and you can still utilize the tools. Brian has a question. How does PadSplit help beginning investors learn design tips and tricks to guide their contractors? So, Brian, to answer your question, you will work with an account executive like myself. If you're in a core market, I can help you in any core market and support you. And the first thing that we do, what I advise for my hosts, individuals who are looking to put their properties on PadSplit, we call y'all hosts. I would advise you to walk the property, and we use an app that we utilize. So then that way you can help start creating the blueprints. We then talk about maximizing that space. Some folks, especially if you're doing FHA loans, or owner occupied loans, we need to dive deep in which product you're using. Susie talks about this as well. You want to talk about how much common space you're going to need. You want to talk about keeping living rooms. It really depends on your loan product that you're utilizing to make sure that we can get that refinanced or get everything approved. And that's my job, is to help support you. You have to do your own research as well, but I'm here to help you with that. So once you have an account executive like myself, we guide you through that. We have contractors on our platform. I am a certified real estate developer, so I develop housing. So I definitely work really, really hard in that area to help my hosts maximize their profits. So Remy, I will send you my information. So then that way we can get you connected with contractors. So someone says, Jana says, need to find renters for my house, which is furnished and divided into 3 units each, and their own exterior interests. It's paid for, just sitting empty. How to find tenants for this unique rural property. It's an hour from Nashville, so I would select that from the location list, but I don't see what PadSplit charges and what percentage. So to answer your question, first, I really hope you're able to attend November 20th to our amazing event. It's going to be great. Pace Morby is going to be presenting in the evening, and it's going to be so much fun. So hopefully you can make the drive and see us. But to answer your question about PadSplit fees, PadSplit charges 2 fees. We do not charge any money up front, and we only collect money when we're making you money. So there's no exchange of money or paying us for services. The first fee is anytime we place someone into a bedroom. So we screen and vet that person. We find them through our marketing efforts. We screen them. They book a room with you. We charge a 10-day booking fee. So 1/3 of the month fee for finding that person, and then ongoing 8%. If you find the individual on your own, because you're not inside Nashville, you're about 60 miles outside of Nashville. I'd love to know where. I went to high school in Brentwood, so I'm very familiar with the area. But we would if you find your own member to live in the property, you do not pay the booking fee. In PadSplit, I will attach this when I send out this replay. I just did a training about how to find your own members, and I'll be doing a follow-up training on November 13th on some marketing efforts. But we teach and help train you how to find your own members so you can save on that booking fee and fill your rooms quickly and efficiently. I'm really, really big on that. I think that you can save hundreds of dollars a year by finding your own members and putting in just a little bit of work. You don't have to find your own members, all of them, but if you find some of them, it's a great tool to fill your properties quick while still utilizing PadSplit's background check and all those resources. Harris and Paul, I'd love to see how do you recommend finding members for your property on your own?
Oh yeah, I'll let Paul take that one. He's the master of that.
Yeah, we actually started our journey before we even knew about PadSplit. And of course, in Charleston is not a core market, it's still emerging, I believe. So we use a combination of other services, obviously Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, a lot of Facebook groups in Charleston for people looking for roommates, sublets, that kind of stuff. Another few other websites, Roomies, Spare Room. Furnish Finders is another one for traveling nurses and medical professionals. Zillow is also now starting to do room rentals. There's also a few others, Roomster, Craigslist. You could do apartments.com with some uh, limited success, but yeah, there's a bunch of other ways to do it. It's kind of scattered all over the place. That is unfortunately what happens the landscape right now. But
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. That's great information. You guys utilize that tool, utilize those tools because those are all the places that we recommend as well. That's what we train on. And especially if you're not in a core market, those are the best places. So I put my email in the chat for those who would like to connect with me. I'll also be sending out a replay of this video with a link to book a call with me. So I'm happy to book calls, answer questions that you guys have. Um, can two people, Sarah has a question, can two people share a room? So on PadSplit, you have the option because we're a marketplace, you can choose whether you'd like to do single occupancy or multiple occupancies. So it's your choice if you'd like two people to share a room. We do not on PadSplit, we do not have two people booking one room that don't know each other, kind of like a room share with two like hostel style properties, but you can set your PadSplit up if you'd like to allow multiple occupancies. Harris and Paul, how do you guys operate with multiple people in a bedroom?
We actually say one person per room.
Okay.
So if a couple or two people wanted to rent from us, they could, but they would have to rent one room each.
Okay.
So if they wanted to sleep in the same bed, go for it, but you'll have to rent two different rooms.
then the other room they can use as an office or storage or yoga, whatever you want.
So on PadSplit, when folks are listing your properties, you guys, this is what I tell everyone that I work with: rent as lease as single occupancy only. That's my recommendation. And if someone reaches out to you for, the primary bedroom and says, hey, my husband or wife would really like to, we want to live together. Is there any way we can both rent this room? You can allow them to if you'd like to and charge them an additional $100 a week. So very important to think about the maximum PadSplit allows for charging for an additional person is $100 a week. So then you would get in writing, yes, we would rent to you. It's an additional $100 per week, and PadSplit will adjust that rate for you. If you put multiple occupancy, it will charge them that amount for single occupancy, even for multiple people. So just something to kind of think about. I recommend always doing single occupancy and then charging them $100 if you are open to that. So someone says, I need to find a liaison and account executive in Atlanta. I work a full-time job and have a 10-year-old. I'm struggling to get traction. I have 2 properties registered with PadSplit and a little more guidance. So I would recommend getting a property manager. So a property manager is phenomenal. Reach out to your account executive that you have and tell them that you'd like a list of property managers. They'll be able to give you PadSplit preferred property managers who can manage this property on your behalf and really help support you. They do charge a percentage, and it is so well worth it to be able to be hands off when you're very busy. So PadSplit, in terms of like managing your property, like your account executive, our job is to help you get set up, help you understand PadSplit, answer questions, and get you going. But for that hands-on support, that is a property manager that you do pay to continue with that support. Um, so I do work in Atlanta as well. So I do all of our core markets. There are account executives in Atlanta if you acquire someone local. Most don't come out on properties. It's not really our role. Occasionally, when I'm in town, I do. I touch all of our markets in the Southeast at least once a quarter. I travel almost full time. So I'm in New York this week. I'll be in Raleigh next week and Charlotte next week. And so I do touch a lot of our markets. So if you're, wanting to chat, Eileen, about PadSplit and account executive, I would love to talk with you. Okay. So we have some looking for contractors. Okay. Okay, another PadSplit question. Okay, Lola says, I have a 4-bedroom, 3-level townhome in Ox Hill. The prices I listed were higher than the lease contract I received from PadSplit. I didn't quite understand why the lease had 35% less than what the room rates need to be in order for PadSplit to be more profitable than market rent. So, as an account executive, it's very important that we make it clear, and maybe Susie and Harris can kind of help me from a mortgage perspective clarify this a little more. So I always tell everyone when you are going to receive the lease from PadSplit, your lease with PadSplit is going to be substantially low. So 35% is great since, and the reason for that is we cannot guarantee income, right? So when we have this lease, it's to lock you in and it's to protect you and it's to help people be members, not tenants. And there's a lot of legalities around why we do the lease. But we can't have a super high lease saying, we don't know what you're going to make. You could stop renting for 2 of those 4 bedrooms, and now we have a lease telling a lender that you're going to make $2,000 a month where you cut off 2 of those bedrooms, and now you're only making $1,000 a month, and that's mortgage fraud. So, with PadSplit, the lease is much lower, so we can not be fraudulent, make sure that, and we encourage you, Lola, to talk to other hosts, and that we'll be able to share with you, like, yes, we make substantially more than the leases. The lease is not a guarantee, it's just the legal protection to support you. So hopefully that answers your question. And if Harris or Paul or Susie wants to chime in a little bit about like why we, guys, okay.
I think you answered that perfectly.
Okay, perfect. So, okay, Jana shared her house near National Harbor. Okay. Okay, so what's your negatives about PadSplit or co-living? What's your frustrating pain point? So what are the biggest negatives about this that you've experienced?
I think for us, I mean, it's not in Charleston is not a core market, so it's not everywhere yet. There's one. Um, and I don't know, maybe some people want the control of who they're getting.
Mm-hmm. And then just in co-living in general, like what are some of the hardest things about managing people living with you?
I definitely think tenant or member conflict is going to be the top thing that you're always going to deal with when it comes to co-living properties. People are going to fight about dishes. People are going to fight about laundry. And if you don't have a property manager or somebody like Paul who is going to manage those conflicts very well, then it's going to be very challenging for you. So I would highly recommend that you run your numbers well to make sure if that's not something that you want to manage, that you find somebody and pay somebody to manage those conflicts.
The other part as well is that this is central to anything real estate. Things will break. A house, doesn't matter if it's a house or a multifamily building, real estate has problems eventually. And when you are doing co-living, things will probably get more wear and tear and break more often. And then when they do, it may impact more people. So that is something to consider as well. If something happens that affects the whole house, well, now it's not just one person, but it's multiple people that you need to figure out a plan for what to do while you're repairing things.
Yeah. For example, we had to replace all of our ductwork in my house at one point. So I had to house all of the people inside of my home somewhere else while the ducts were being fixed. So that was I had to compare, am I going to put them in a hotel and get each one of them individual rooms? That's probably more expensive than just getting an Airbnb with enough rooms for everybody. So that's what I ended up doing. So you have to consider that when you have maintenance issues.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, those are things. And have you ever experienced furniture being stolen or things come up missing?
So far, no. No. We do keep track of exactly what the room looks like when they move in
Mhm.
and exactly what the room looks like when they move out so that we have record of that. Um, I know that in the PadSplit model, you do membership fees, right? Where it's a one-time fee. We don't do that. We do security deposit. So if for some reason they take something, then we have that on record and we can take that from their security deposit. But I don't know exactly how that would function inside of PadSplit.
Also, for furniture, you have to take into account that a lot of people are going to be using it. They may not be as gentle with things. So, if you're going to be furnishing everything, make sure that it's durable and not like luxury, and just expect it's probably going to get some dings and scratches and probably get damaged over time. So, take that into account.
So something that I didn't mention when someone asked about Airbnb, furnishing a pad split is so much cheaper than furnishing an Airbnb. So I have a friend who did an Airbnb property not too long ago, and her Airbnb property manager, they spent $14,000 on furniture. Okay, because it's luxury, right? So you want it to be nice, you need that to be how you want it to be. With our pad splits, when you have 4 bedrooms, we're pretty good about furnishing a whole house for right around $1,000 a room, and that includes stuff for the common area as well. So like your dinette set, a couple of starter things in the kitchen. The other thing I recommend is less is more. So anything that you're offering, like a blender, right? If that blender breaks, it's pretty common that you should replace it because it was kind of what was offered in the house. So I do recommend less is more. So yes, having a fully furnished kitchen with a refrigerator and stove and microwave and all of that, but having a Ninja blender and having a specialty toaster or toaster oven, just less is just more. When people really want things, they'll bring those in. So kind of consider that. And then here at PadSplit, we do provide support with shopping. So if you wanted to buy everything new, we have Amazon links and we can support you in kind of guiding that. So we have a question that is asking about HOA. So how, a majority of HOAs do not allow leasing rooms. How do you get around this? So we do not recommend buying in an HOA. Julie, that is one thing that we really don't recommend it. Do people join PadSplit on an HOA? Yes, we do not police it. It is your responsibility to place properties on our marketplace that you're following the guidelines. And some people have different beliefs or different risk tolerance. So even though it's not recommended, people still do it. I see that you're based in Raleigh, and I'm always in Raleigh, so I'd love to take you out to lunch and just kind of chat. And so I'll send you a message about when I'll be in town. And we do quite a bit of things in Raleigh. And I'm very sorry to hear that your HOA is fining you. Circle back around and send me an email. I'll check and see, if you've talked with Pat so that we can talk offline about some kind of support and see how things are going. But our legal team sends pretty, can, try to see how we can support you, not financially, but just with advice and support, and kind of take it from there. But I'm really sorry that you're experiencing that. So yes, no HOAs. So yes, you know what, Julie, reach out to me as well because we work, and I know we work with New Western and they've been finding some phenomenal deals in Raleigh. There's actually a pad split for sale right now in Raleigh. One of my hosts is selling. He has to sell due to family reasons. So we have a phenomenal 100% occupancy pad split for sale. finding lots of good things in Raleigh because I'm in the area quite a bit. So I'd love to connect with you. Um, Yes, we'll be sending a recording out tomorrow, not that fast. And I will send you my email address to connect with me. I want to shift gears a little bit to Susie and just allow her to share a little bit about Rehab Wallet and how she's been helping our hosts and friends with financing.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. So we're a hard money lender, true hard money lender based out of Charleston, South Carolina, but we don't lend in every state. I keep seeing everybody on the chat, Texas. So we only lend in North, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, and we actually just kind of dropped Ohio, but we did take Tennessee. So
Oh,
excited
cool.
that you have Nashville now coming because that is a market that we are now in. Biggest thing with us and kind of what we are able to do. Three big things. One, when a borrower approaches us, the borrower must provide a floor plan using a third-party app or an app. We use Cubicasa that kind of just outlines in the borrowers are able to draw out where within the floor plan they're going to add the bedrooms. The house must have at least three common spaces for kitchen, dining room, whether it's a den or living room. All other heated square footage of the house may be used as a bedroom and bathroom space. We don't recommend that there be more than three bedrooms sharing one bathroom. So whether that's a 3:1, 2:1, or 1:1 ratio. Um, Location's big. I think you already mentioned we do not recommend any of our borrowers to the property to be in an HOA. We do want them to be within 30 minutes of employment hubs, universities, military bases, or hospitals. I think Paul alluded to that. Um, as far as the exit, Harris already talked about this. Borrowers must refinance into a long-term loan before placing the tenants. We are your short-term lender. We're the ones that are going to help you acquire the property. We fund typically for experienced borrowers 90% of the purchase price, 100% of the rehab cost, but not to exceed 70% of that after repair value. And that's key, right? That's so important because we want to make sure that the math works, the property is indeed going to make sense. So you in some cases, I know a lot of our borrowers try to maybe add different finishes that will increase the rehab amount because they want to add A, B, or C, kind of try to stay in line. We only fund up to 70% of that after repair value. As far as what we can do for our borrowers too, we have a 24-hour pre-approval, pretty simple with us. We don't pull credit, no asset, no income verification. We truly are an asset-based lender. And we can close in most cases within 7 business days.
Wow. As long as everyone has everything in a row, right? All the
Yes,
in a
yes. We don't
row.
use appraisals. We use broker price opinion that allows us to close a little bit quicker as well.
What is broker price opinion?
Basically, we ask an agent, a broker, to drive by the property. They don't need access of the interior of the home. We require the borrowers or the applicants to send us pictures of what that looks like, along with what they plan to do with the property. That's where that app kind of comes into place, and then pictures of what that looks like. That again, the borrower requires. So they don't necessarily need access to the interior of the house. They're not doing a full-blown appraisal. They're going to evaluate the comps within the area.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So thank you so much for sharing. Someone asked about lenders in Texas. We have some other phenomenal lenders. I work with CC quite a bit because I'm based in North Carolina, but I have quite a bit of clients in Texas. So I can shoot me an email. I'll send you some preferred vendors, some preferred lenders in your area for Texas. So just let us know. And then Jana has an owner occupied in Chattanooga, a property next to her owner occupied. This could be a good pad split. We would definitely recommend running the numbers and kind of seeing if it would make sense for you for sure. Joel had a really great comment, and think about this. For some of our folks in HOA. Some hosts sell shares, a small amount, 0.1% to 1% of the property to tenants, making them tenant buyers while residing in the home with the revocable at exit. This is a workaround for HOA restrictions. So something to kind of think about, a little bit more complex, but something that's not impossible. Um, it's very similar to what PadSplit is doing for the lease option because all of the individuals who are living in the home, although they are renting rooms, they are a member of the LLC that is on the lease. So technically, under the eyes of HUD, that they are considered a family. It's very expensive to fight an HOA. I will be honest, PadSplit works really hard in fighting, especially in municipalities, and we've won 100% of the time with our verbiage. So that's why I recommend getting some support from legal just to see how we've won. So you can utilize those case studies to be successful with HOAs. It is a hard fight. It is expensive. It is hard, but we've won 100% of the time. So just something to kind of think about as well. And this is a great question for Harris and Paul. Can renovation costs, oh, sorry, or Susie, can renovation costs exceed acquisition costs with Rehab Wallet's products?
It can, yeah, as long as the after repair value does not exceed 70%. We have found and funded some properties that the acquisition is less than the expected rehab.
Awesome, awesome. So, what's the lender's name that was? So this is Susie. She's phenomenal. And Susie, you should think about coming to Nashville.
I'm
I'll
going to work
call
on
you
that.
this
You bet.
afternoon. Harris, you too. It's gonna be really fun. And there will be a playback of this, Eric. So don't worry, I'll be sending it out tomorrow. I put it on YouTube so you guys can check it out. And I'll be emailing you as well, all the information. And oh, this is one of my favorite questions. How many bedrooms in a home is considered the sweet spot for maximum income? So with PadSplit, I say between 6 to 8. Um, it depends on your market. So if you're somewhere like Charlotte, you can be great with 4 to 5. But 6 to 8 is really the cash flowing sweet spot. And it's not just about number of a bedroom. So I always tell folks when you are buying, it's about how you buy. So many people buy like, oh, I'll just rent by the room. And it's like you still have to buy properly, right? You still have to buy well to be successful at PadSplit. And as your account executive, for those of y'all who aren't working with anyone, my job is to help you run numbers before the purchase and teach you how to run numbers for co-living so we can make sure you're profitable. So that's what I do is I teach all my investors who are starting out how to run numbers, how to make sure that they're profitable, whether they have 5 bedrooms or 6 bedrooms. Let's show you how to be profitable with what you buy. So the Nashville event is on November 20th. It's going to be of 2025 because this will be replayed for years to come. Pace Morby's going to be there, Bill Faith, lots of great speakers. So it's going to be phenomenal. So Devin has a great question. So if you have a property that's currently a 4.4, converting it to 12 units, how would you do the ARV for that if there aren't others in that area? Susie or Harris or Paul?
I can speak to that a little bit. So this is why it's critical to make sure that you have a good refinance lender and that you are changing the property in such a way that an appraiser will be able to give you the value that you need to refinance, even if it's a 12 bedroom. So if your market doesn't have a lot of 12 bedrooms, which it probably does not, then you're going to have to reconsider that floor plan in order to get the appraisal that you need. So that might be um, renovating a property and then getting your refinance done, exiting, and then maybe adding a couple of walls for some additional bedrooms if you end up wanting to do that. But ultimately, you may not be able to get the value from an appraiser with a 12 unit. You just may not be able to because maybe the maximum that they see in that market is 6 bedrooms or 7 bedrooms. And so it's going to be very hard for an appraiser to walk through that property and say, this property is worth X amount of money because they have no idea because there's nothing comparable to it in the market. So I'd highly recommend if you're going to go with a product like Rehab Wallet or a hard money type loan, that you need to have your after repair value or your floor plan for what it's supposed to look like after be something that you can get an appraised value for and the highest appraised value that you can get based on your market.
I've heard a good rule of thumb is look for what is the maximum bedroom count in your area and try to not go 2 or 3 bedrooms past that
Yeah.
because the appraiser is going to be like, okay, this is too much.
Good rule of thumb. That's a great, I love that. Something great to think about. So we do have to wrap up, but before we go, Eric has the last question of the day. In PadSplit, what's the average bedroom size? So I say 100 square feet. You can get away with a little bit smaller. Anything smaller than 85 square feet is just has a higher turn, but that 100 square feet, you're fine. So really try to aim for rooms that are at least 100 square feet. Two modes of egress, that window, having a door to the bedroom, as well as a closet or wardrobe, those type of things. And we do have recommend legal bedrooms. We can kind of talk about that as well. Um, so perfect. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. And a big thank you to Harrison, Paul, and Susie for being our special guests today and for sharing your insight. As always, we do this a couple of times a year. I get Harris and now we get Paul. So this is extra special. So stay tuned. They are so generous and with their time, and we really appreciate you. And Susie, always we work together multiple times a month and we see each other, and she's always marketing and she's always easy to call. So highly recommend Rehab Wallet and everything you guys do, and we appreciate you all so much.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.